I was living with my dad in 2013 after filing for bankruptcy on a business I had started when I was young. He lived in a small village in England called Huttonley and lived in a lovely, large cottage in the scenic landscape. The village was situated in the North York Moors, a large national park in the UK. One day, it was raining heavily and my dad's dog, Indigo, hadn't been walked all day. At the time, I was looking for jobs after losing my business, so I had some amount of free time. I knew my dad wouldn't want to walk the dog in the downpour and I thought it was the least I could do. I wrapped up in waterproofs and put the dog on its lead and let it take me out of the house. The wind whipped my face and the rain drenched my body as me and Indigo headed towards a trail. Indigo was unfazed by the chronic weather and was jumping around, wagging his tail and running ahead. I was getting soaked. We were about 3 miles into the trail, which isn't unusual as Indigo was a golden retriever and they have a ton of energy. I was about ready to turn back when I noticed 2 guys stood a bit further ahead on the trail, shouting at my dog who had run ahead. They had 2 bikes next to them and were dressed in only blacks and greys. Indigo was jumping up at them and they were moaning at my dog. I want to point out that I hate irresponsible dog owners and that I'd never let my dog jump up at anyone. I always put him on a lead, but I didn't even notice these guys and they were complaining that my dog was getting mud on them and getting them wet, even though it was pouring down and these guys were covered in mud from their bike ride. I came over quickly and apologised, leaning down to put the lead on my dog. The 2 guys started laughing and at first I thought they may have realised my mistake and were calming down. Then I felt a powerful connection to my chin and I fell back, my dog barking. I was dazed for a moment and came back around. My hearing sounded like I was underwater as I leant up to see these 2 guys kicking Indigo on the floor. He appeared lifeless and wasn't even whimpering. I got up and croaked, "Hey, leave my dog alone," to the 2 guys and one of them made their way towards me. I wasn't even stood up at this point and the muddy conditions of the trail meant I kept slipping. I panicked and tried crawling away. I felt a heavy foot crushing my ankle. I screamed in agony as the pressure intensified. I looked up and there was the other cyclist. He punched me in my nose. I heard it crack and felt blood rushing out of my nose like warm rainwater. He then started kicking me in the head and ribs, all the while I could hardly move because of his mate standing on my ankle. It felt like hours, but they finally stopped and got on their bikes and rode off. I looked back at them. One of them kicked Indigo's limp body as he went past on his bike. I crawled over to Indigo and cuddled up to him. He was cold. I took off my coat and wrapped him in it. I picked myself up and then I picked him up. I knew my nose and ankle were broken, so the 3-mile trek seemed like a marathon. I arrived back at home and phoned the vets, then an ambulance for myself. The ambulance arrived first and the paramedics told me I had broken my nose, my ankle and 2 ribs. They shone a light in my eyes and said I may also be concussed and that we needed to go to the hospital immediately. I didn't want to because the vets hadn't arrived and thankfully they arrived moments later and the next thing I knew I was in an ambulance. The guys were never caught. They had been wearing snoods and in the commotion I never even got a good look at anything. I couldn't even remember what clothes they were wearing, just the basic colours. Indigo was miraculously fine and only suffered a few bumps and scratches. He had been KO'd and hadn't been able to defend himself at all, but Thankfully, he suffered no lasting injuries. I am now fine and still regularly use the trail this occurred on. My thinking goes that if I let these cowards scare me, that's when I know they really won. I live in a massive city that doesn't have many green spaces. Since January 2015, I'd been jogging every day and had to jog around the concrete structures as there wasn't really any parks or woods nearby. I'm going to be purposefully vague in my descriptions as this case is still open. On February the 7th, 2017, I took my usual jog. Depending on my shift at work, I would either go in the morning or fairly late at night. This time was the latter. It was about 9 PM and I set off from my home to jog the circuit I did most days. It usually took me around 45 minutes to an hour, but I was getting pretty good at hitting closer to the 45-minute mark by this time. The circuit took me through a small shopping area, past a supermarket, past our local library and some listed buildings, and then into some subways. Not the ones with trains, just walkways that passed under roads. Back out onto our street level, past our local hospital, and then around the corner, back to my home. It's dark as I'm running and I have my earphones in. Because of this, I'm extremely cautious of traffic and am constantly stopping and starting. When I got to the subways, I had a lot of energy saved from the fact I'd been taking it easier to avoid being hit by a car. In the subway, I decided to full sprint to the other side as a sort of new challenge to myself. I started picking up the pace when this guy steps out in front of me. I run right into him but grab him so he doesn't fall. He starts shouting at me, so I think he's just having a go for me running into him. I pull out an earphone and he's asking for my phone. Do you think I'm fucking kidding? Hand that shit over now. What? I managed to spit out, confused. Give me your fucking phone. Before I react, he just pulls out a switchblade like it's nothing. I don't even hesitate to hand him my phone. He asks for my earphones and I give him them as well. Give me those shoes as well, he says, pointing his blade at my new running shoes. I had got them 2 days before and they cost a small fortune. I hesitated. Now, he barked. Come on man, it's freezing out. I gotta get home in these. Take off the fucking shoes now. His voice echoed through the underground. I unlaced them and pleaded one more time. Please, I live miles away. He didn't even blink. I fucking told you, he said as he lunged forward and then ran off, leaving me with my shoes. I was confused. What was that all about? I didn't linger on it for long and just assumed he was high. I wanted to get out of there quick and I bent down to tie my shoelaces. A sharp pain rushed through my stomach. I yelled out in pain. I looked down and my whole body ran cold. There was blood coming from my lower right stomach. Lots of it. I suddenly started coughing as if noticing it had somehow triggered side effects. I could taste blood in my mouth. I started walking forward, but the pain was immense on my stomach. I was talking to myself, telling myself I'd make it. A young woman came walking down the subway and I asked for her help. She just ignored me and walked on. I was worrying at this point. My vision was blurry and I was scared the attacker might come back to finish the job. I was rushing to get out of the subway system, but it was no faster than a casual walk. I got out of the subway station and just started shouting at 2 hospital staff I saw smoking outside. I collapsed on the other side of the road and saw one of them running over to me. I passed out after he reached me. It was a week later when I spoke to the police. I described the guy as well as I could, but it wasn't the best description of a criminal. I'm out of hospital now and I still jog, but that wound has left me with less endurance than I once had. The police still get in touch with me, even as recently as New Year, with pictures of new suspects in case I am able to identify him. So far, I haven't been able to. I was born and bred in Colombia and still live there to this day. When I was studying at college, back in 2003, me and a small group of friends decided to go hiking one summer. Now, as I say, I'm a native Colombian, so I'm sorry if my English is incorrect or sometimes a bit uneasy, but here goes. I was born and lived in a city in southeast Colombia called Mitu, but attended university at the capital, Bogota. However, where we decided to go hiking was really northern. I don't want to give the exact location away for fear this may resurface old issues, but it was in the mainland and very northern. So we arrived on the train and had to walk about 9 miles to our hotel. We had booked in for one night and were hoping to make the 30-mile hike in a single day, where we would then reach our second hotel before getting the train back to Bogota. All went smooth and we checked out of the first hotel early on a nice sunny day. It was warm, even for us climatised nationals, but not too warm, and we were sure that some rain would come at some point. We start on the trail, which basically begins as a dirt road and then thins out before entering dense jungle. After that it ascended up and down on a few lush peaks and then back into a trail of long grass and sparse trees. The whole hike went without a hitch at the start. We were completing it in record time and having fun taking in the sights of our beautiful country. It was in the jungle when we heard chainsaw-like sounds and a man shouting. We thought it was weird for anyone to be logging around here. It was pretty secluded and, as we were aware, protected, but we pressed on assuming that if it was loggers, they had the proper clearance. Looking back, it's obvious what that noise was. We kept ourselves going through the day, hardly stopping and snacking on chocoramos, a really popular snack food here in Colombia. We get through the dense jungle and past the hills and reach the tall grass. The sun was beginning to set and it was wet as it had rained earlier on when we were in the jungle. We are all tired at this point when we hear the chainsaw noise again. We all look confused as we heard it miles back and there's no way we should still be hearing it so clearly. Suddenly, the grass begins to rustle and these 3 guys, all riding dirt bikes, ride out in front of us onto the path. At first, they didn't notice us, but one of them looks back and sees us and his eyes lit up like the cigarette in his mouth. He takes it out and whistles, skids his bike 180 and heads back our way. His 2 comrades follow him. My stomach hit my arse. I knew they were trouble and they pulled up in front of us, blocking the path in front of us. "What are you boys doing here?" he asked demandingly in Spanish. He had a tight black vest on and cargo shorts with sandals. His 2 friends wore similar attire. He had dyed blonde hair, spiked up, and tattoos of dragons and symbols on his arms. "Just hiking the trail," I said, trying to keep cool, though I know my fear leaked out. He began eyeing us up. "You all from the south, eh?" he said. "Colombians are notoriously good at picking up on accents. I can pinpoint where you are from in seconds. It sounds harmless, but some regions practically hate one another and some individuals just generally dislike other regions." My 2 friends nodded despite both hailing from the capital. "Foreigners," one of his comrades said, spitting on the floor. That summed up their disdain for us. "You need help on the trail then?" the main guy asked, his lips turning into a smirk. "No, we're fine thank you," I replied, keeping it polite. "Don't be strangers," he replied. I found it difficult to place the context and meaning of this. I decided enough was enough and walked into the grass slightly to get around them. My friends followed suit. At first, I thought they were just trying to frighten us and we'd got away, but as I passed them, I heard a soft metallic thud. I turned around to see one of my friends crying out in pain on the floor next to the main guy. He was holding a large metal spanner and my friend's leg was facing inwards. All three of them laughed as he spat, "Get those other two pretty boys." Before I could get away, they had grabbed us and gave us a similar beating. I don't want to go into all the gory details, but they ended up breaking 3 of my other friend's ribs, as well as puncturing a lung and shattering his jaw. I was lucky. I had no broken bones, but they did pin me down over the back of one of the motorcycles and slashed my neck. They took all our bags and belongings and left us all there to die. I immediately took off my shirt and bound it tightly around my neck, so tight that I couldn't even swallow. Me and my friend with the broken ribs knew we had to help our other friend who actually couldn't walk with his mangled leg. We had about an hour's walk left, which ended up taking over 3 and felt even longer due to the pain and fear of their return. I was dizzily drifting in and out of consciousness, but never gave up. It was as though my legs knew I needed to walk to survive, even when my brain gave up. We made it to the hotel after dark and the staff immediately called an ambulance for us. Thankfully, we all healed without any severe complications and miraculously, my slashed throat was far from fatal. They missed my windpipe and any major arteries by a substantial distance, given the scale of the attack. We reported the attack to the police and, as far as I'm aware, they never caught the guys who attacked us so violently. The attack was disgusting and unprovoked and shows how dangerous human beings can be. Even now, nearly 15 years later, I still have the scar across my neck and my other friends have their own scars, both psychological and physical. This incident was isolated. Colombia is a beautiful country and I recommend you all visit at least once to see the natural beauty of our country and to experience the real hospitality of real Colombians. Despite the scars, the attack hasn't put me off, and although I never went back to that exact trail, I have hiked in that area multiple times since and have only ever met genuinely nice people. Hey guys, Brothers Jackson here. I really want to speak to you about something very serious, in my opinion, and that's basically YouTube's new partner program policies. As it stands, I am not eligible to stay as a partner, which basically means come the 20th of February, I won't be able to monetize any of my videos. Now, I work, like I have a job, I work, so thankfully it's not my main source of income. The thing is, it's not just about the fact that I can't monetize my adverts, it's the fact that YouTubers basically just shit all over the smaller YouTubers, and that's my genuine opinion. So, I really need your guys' help to get me to 1,000 subs by February the 20th, so I'm 250 away. And I also need your guys' help to get me up to 4,000 hours viewing time. Now, at the minute, I'm 550 hours off, which isn't actually that much considering, like, that's a grand total of everybody who watches my content. I'm trying to drum up some publicity for it now. Not publicity, that's not the right word. Some stuff for it now. So I'm hopefully going to be uploading twice a week. So there's going to be a main video on the Saturday, and then there's going to be a one story video in the week. That's just to try and get myself out there a little bit more. I'm also trying to work on collaborating with some people who've got like 40 or 50,000 subs to really try and get myself exposed out there, because this community is a great community and I know a lot of the guys are really willing to help. If I'm honest, I am panicking a little bit because I don't want to lose my partnership, because I've done absolutely nothing wrong, and this new policy is just a way for YouTube to fuck the smaller channels over again. And I do truly believe it could lead to bigger problems for like mid-level YouTubers who have like 30,000 subs up to like 80,000 subs. I feel like it could really affect them as well, especially in the horror community, as YouTube are just restricting more and more. So if you really want to help out, just leave my videos running in the background, no volume on, just anything like that. Share my videos with any of your friends who you think might be interested in subscribing and anything like that, because I could really do with some help here just to try and push myself up before that deadline. If you listen to all of that, thank you so much, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more. I can make it out of this. Peace out, guys. Cheers.